because bidding and proposal writing can seem like learning another language. Also, you don't know if you're jumping through all the hoops the government wants you to jump through, and you just don't want to miss something that could be really important. Today, I'm letting you know that you're validated if you have these concerns of knowing if you're bidding properly. And today, my goal is to share with you some ways that will hopefully empower you to know if you are doing the proposal response process properly, so you can hopefully put your mind at a bit more ease and allow you to pursue the federal bidding process with a bit more confidence moving forward. And if you are looking for help with bidding, make sure to stick around to the end of this video where I share more about the first FedBid small business incubator that I'm opening next month for enrollment for small businesses that want to begin bidding confidently and proposal writing for federal contracts. But more on that later. So the first thing I want to point out, if you're saying that you don't know if you're doing it right when it comes to bidding and proposal writing, is that you may not have an example of what right is or what it looks like. And that's okay, because right is going to be different and it's going to change from bid to bid because every solicitation is different. And that's why it's uncommon to see examples of federal bids, because it could be a bit misleading. Fortunately though, there are a few elements that nearly every solicitation has in common that binds them together that you can rely on to help validate if you are doing it properly, or to point out that maybe you're messing something up. I first want to preface this though, for those established businesses, maybe it's you, that already has an RFP process in place for quoting work in the private sector. You cannot, and I repeat, cannot, just put a government RFP through your B2P RFP process. It's not the same. And if you do this, your bid will likely be thrown out right away. There are unique differences for government RFPs and even tripwires that if you don't abide by them, it will be very evident very quickly that you're not following the government process. So even if you already have an established B2B bidding process, you still have to learn the government process just like everybody else. Sorry to break the news to you. So now the first thing I want to talk about are the 3 sections of a solicitation, like I said, that you can use to validate that you are doing it right. And you've heard me talk about these before, guys, but I'm mentioning them again because they're just that important. The first section to help you validate if you're doing it properly is known as Section L, or Instruction to Offerors. This section is in nearly every federal RFP that gives you the instruction that contracting wants you to know and wants you to follow when putting together your response. It will contain information requesting proposal details like your technical approach, past performance, and other pricing information, for example. It will also include information like font size, and other guidelines that you should be using to help organize your proposal, otherwise you're going to be thrown out. So once you follow this and you've completed your proposal package, you could and should very literally use this instruction to offer section as your grade sheet to validate, to go back, look, and compare if you did it right. Because that's exactly what the contracting officer is going to be doing when they're reviewing your bid as well. In certain RFPs and other requests for quotes, however, this section may not always be so obvious to find, and it may not always be referenced as the instruction to offerors. But trust in the process that somewhere in the solicitation, contracting will be telling you what they want you to respond with, and that's what you should be looking for. And let's say if they only give you a pricing sheet to fill out and nothing else, that just means it's a request for quote and it's a price only evaluation. So in the solicitation, there's a section that physically comes immediately after the Section L, Instruction to Offerors, that we're talking about, and that's called the Section M, Evaluation Factors. Say when you're first hunting for Section L, you always know that you've gone too far when you land on some section that starts talking about evaluation factors. So this section of a solicitation, Section M, explains to you how the winning bidder will be chosen. The solicitation will define the procurement strategy being used, with most common strategies being LPTA, lowest price technically acceptable, or a best value trade-off, for example. And really, if the instruction to offers is the what you should be including in your proposal package, the evaluation factor section really is the how your proposal will be graded and weighted. So it's super important to pay attention to. So for this, for example, past performance and technical, when combined, could be equal to price, or your technical approach could be considerably more important than your past performance, or vice versa. These are evaluation weightings that you will get used to seeing in the solicitation. So when you're trying to understand if you're bidding properly, it's not only important to just check all the right boxes in the solicitation package, it's also important to know which areas matter the most so that you can perform a deeper analysis if your company really has a chance, for example, by knowing which areas of the proposal are going to be most heavily weighted. In short, if you know what areas to put special emphasis on in your proposal, you know you're on track to doing it right. Now, the last solicitation piece worth mentioning right now that can support you in validating if you're bidding properly are pricing CLINs and pricing breakdown sheets. A big part of properly preparing a solicitation response is properly pricing the complete service you are providing for the entire period of time that you are saying you can provide it. Or if it's project-based, how long will it take to complete and what time and materials will it take to complete it? If you find yourself second guessing in this area, you're not doing it right. You should be absolutely certain of what you're pricing and for how long. Otherwise, you shouldn't be pricing it yet in the first place. In the solicitation, contracting provides pricing CLINs, which stand for contracting line item numbers that serve as the buckets of money you will be billing against. They are separated by each respective service or part of the project, and they're also separated by time, like base and option years. And this is actually a good thing because then you know exactly what contracting is asking for and what you need to price. So in addition, contracting will likely be providing some sort of pricing spreadsheet or pricing breakdown that will reflect this that you will also need to be filling out. For me, this is one of the first things that I look at in a solicitation because it really is the case of a picture being worth 1,000 words. The pricing information you gain from a pricing spreadsheet can tell you so much more about the job that could take you literally hours to discern, otherwise trying to read through dozens and dozens of pages in the solicitation or, for example, the statement of work. If you can feel positively about what you're pricing, you can begin to have confidence about what you're bidding and knowing that you're doing it properly. So guys, I know I talk a lot about these 3 sections, but they really are that important and one of the first things you need to master for your small business if you're going to be committed to bidding and winning federal work in this space. Moving on now from the sections of a solicitation, now I want to talk about government forms. If you've spent some time on sam.gov looking at solicitations, you've probably seen the list of attachments that can be quite lengthy and quickly add up. When you open some of these attachments, you realize there are government forms that look like you need to fill them out, that need to be completed. I already mentioned pricing worksheets and pricing breakdowns, but there is a whole host of other government forms like amendments, past performance questionnaires, base entry forms, standard forms, 1449, 1442, and many potential other forms that you will need to be filling out as part of your proposal package if you're going to do it properly. And in my experience working with clients who are new to proposal writing and the bidding process, one of the most frequent things I actually hear is, where can I find this form if the government hasn't supplied it? It's almost as if the client has seen the form used in another solicitation, so they assume they have to fill it out in the current solicitation that they're working on. But guys, this is why I say every bid is different. Do not go hunting for forms. If they have not supplied it to you or as an attachment, the general rule of thumb is that you do not need to fill it out. You should really be more focused on what they have given you rather than what they haven't given you. And if you find yourself in a special situation, and this does happen, but they've requested you to fill something out but they didn't give it to you, you can always send a gentle nudge to contracting to let them know, and I will actually touch on that more in the next point. But for now, when you're first diving into a solicitation package, put yourself in a survival situation. One of the first rules of being in a survival situation is to take inventory of everything that you have around you, on you, that could possibly be used to support you. And this could literally save your life one day. So when you're first going through an RFP, you want to take inventory once again of all the government forms they've attached because you're likely going to have to fill them out. And if you miss one of these vitally important pieces of information, just like in a survival situation, it could render your efforts dead in the water when you submit your response to contracting if it's incomplete. I know this point might seem like a bit of a tangent, but you can relate this back to validating if you're doing your response properly, because isn't it better to identify exactly what the forms are needed to respond with upfront versus putting all this effort in and then sending your offer to contracting, not knowing if you're supposed to include a particular form or not. Government forms are an essential part of responding to RFPs, and to feel confident about government forms will allow you to check yet another box on your checklist when you're, say, performing your final proposal red team review and making sure you did everything properly. Now, if you have gone through all the solicitation documents and you have some questions, or like I previously mentioned, something isn't included that should be, there is a process for communicating this directly with the contracting officer. This is called submitting an RFI, or a request for information. Or really, in other words, it just means submitting questions in writing to the contracting officer before the Q&A deadline during the solicitation stage. Hear me out on this, okay? Contracting knows they may have not gotten everything perfect in the solicitation, so having this window for small businesses to ask questions about the federal job serves as a bit of a safety net, both for contracting and for contractors. Both parties are working towards a win-win scenario here. So if your small business realizes something is missing to properly bid on this job, you are encouraged to communicate that in writing to the contracting officer or the contracting specialist right away. Submitting questions, however, is not only for when information is missing. Whatever pertinent questions you have regarding the solicitation or the work to be performed are really yours to ask. It's surprising how many times more questions aren't being asked, but if contracting doesn't hear from you, they're just going to assume everything is fine. Answers to questions by all businesses will be posted publicly on the sam.gov listing page as an update to the solicitation so that everyone has equal knowledge. It wouldn't be fair competition for contracting to only share the answers to questions with whomever submitted it. So in conjunction with asking your own questions, you want to make sure you're also reading through the questions that others have asked in that Q&A posting, because contracting will be providing the answers to those questions in that document too. And to be honest, these may even hold answers to really good questions that you didn't even think to happen. This really happens all the time. So if you're looking for ways to be confident in the bidding process, another way is to know that you're not alone in this. Contracting wants you to be able to successfully bid on their job. So if something is confusing or doesn't make sense, please submit your question in writing and get some clarification on it. And no, you're not bugging the contracting officer when you do this. It's an actual part of the procurement process. I'm telling you, they literally plan a period of time just for questions to do this. So it's best you take advantage of this period as much as you can. And for me, there have even been times where I haven't been able to bid on something until I got an answer back from contracting first, because the information was just that important, okay? So please understand, if something doesn't make sense or something's missing, it very well may be, and you may be the first one to have caught it. So please do this process. Now, I know there's a lot to bidding and proposal writing, and obviously I can't instill all the confidence you need in just one training, but hopefully these points help to give you some confidence to at least start moving forward with the process. If you are looking for more support for bidding and proposal writing on these federal projects on sam.gov listings, I'm opening enrollment soon for the first FedBid Small Business Incubator program. So like the name says, you can begin submitting your first federal bids with confidence. If you want to learn more about that, just check out the link in the description of this video. That'll take you to a short survey to see if it's a fit, and if so, to book some time on my calendar where we can speak actually one-on-one to learn more about your business needs and share more about the program. I hope today's training gave you some tangible insights to start practicing so that you can know whether you're doing bidding right or not, or at least get started with that process. So let me know in the comments what was helpful for you in this video, and if there's something about the bidding process you'd like me to cover in a future video. So guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.